The Kurukshetra war left millions dead and an empire in ashes. But to find the real architects of the slaughter, we have to look away from the battlefield, rewind past the colliding chariots, and step inside the royal palaces. This deep dive into the hidden forces of the Mahabharata is presented by Pawan Thakur at Thakur Property Consultancy. Reach them at 9000-435-2787. Every strategic shift in the Kuru line, from the extinction of its heirs to the birth of its rival armies, can be traced back to the specific vows, ambitions, and curses of its powerful matriarchs. To understand why this war became a certainty, we have to look past the soldiers and analyze the women whose decisions set the terms of power decades before the fighting began. We begin with Goddess Ganga in the bottom right panel. She demanded King Shantanu never question her actions. Acting on celestial logic, she systematically drowned her first 7 sons to liberate them. When Shantanu intervened with the 8th, she abandoned him. Ganga's contrast was the fisherwoman Satyavati. Her goals were entirely earthly. She possessed a fierce ambition to secure the throne exclusively for her own bloodline, regardless of the cost to the existing order. That ambition had immediate consequences. To secure Satyavati's marriage to his father, the highly capable Crown Prince Devavrata took a terrifying vow of lifelong celibacy, removing himself from the line of succession and becoming Bhishma. But Satyavati's plan backfired when her direct heirs died childless. To save the lineage, she was forced to summon her ascetic sage, Sage Vyasa, highlighted at this central node, to perform niyoga, a practice of surrogate fatherhood to impregnate the royal widows. By placing political ambition over the natural succession, Satyavati created a highly unstable foundation for the empire, built on surrogate births and a power vacuum. That instability led to a generational deadlock, where 2 rival mothers were forced to secure the Kuru line through opposing ideological and biological methods. Queen Kunti represents patient strategy. Her husband cursed, she used a divine mantra to invoke gods, birthing the Pandavas. Beneath her, Queen Gandhari's power rooted in sacrifice. Permanently blindfolded for her husband, she birthed a lifeless mass of flesh. Following this red pathway, we see how Sage Vyasa divided that mass into 101 pots of ghee, incubating the 100 Kauravas who would eventually challenge Kunti's sons. These miraculous but highly unnatural births solidified an inescapable rivalry, splitting the family into 2 warring branches from the very beginning. While Kunti and Gandhari battled for the throne, other women were pushed to the margins of power, becoming tragic figures in the royal struggle. King Pandu's second wife, Madri, was a pawn of fate. After the king's curse took his life, she committed sati on his funeral pyre, leaving her children to be raised in the shadow of the power struggle she couldn't join. Then there was Hidimba, the Rakshasi. She defied her own clan's brutal politics out of love for the Pandava Bhima, raising their powerful son Gatotkacha alone in the forest, while the royal war brewed elsewhere. Even those far from Hastinapur bore the heaviest burdens, sacrificing their lives and status to preserve the futures of the Kuber warriors. But the final group of matriarchs rejected this passive role. These were the catalysts of fire, women who actively chose vengeance to answer male arrogance. Princess Amba, top right, weaponized her trauma, reincarnating as warrior Shikhandi to execute Bhishma. Beside her, Draupadi, born from a sacrificial fire, forced into marriage with all 5 Pandavas, she became the ultimate focal point of the family's honor. The breaking point occurred during a rigged game of dice. This system failure chart shows Draupadi's public humiliation, where the Kuru patriarchs sat paralyzed by their own rigid codes while she was dragged and disrobed. Draupadi's unyielding, righteous fury in that moment became the absolute catalyst. Her hair remained untied for 13 years until she could wash it in the blood of her humiliators, guaranteeing the war's total destruction. When the 18 days of slaughter ended, the warriors were gone. Power reverted to the grieving women in a world of silence and ash. Gandhari's grief resulted in the final display of matriarchal power. She cursed Lord Krishna, decreeing that his own Yadava lineage would be destroyed by internal violence, just as her sons were. Krishna accepted the curse without hesitation. It was proof that the sorrow of a mother carried a weight equal to divine will. The men fought the battles, But the epic's momentum was driven by Ganga's rules and Satyavati's demands, and Kunti's endurance, and the combined wrath of Draupadi and Gandhari. From Ganga's initial conditions to Satyavati's insistence on her own bloodline, the choices of these women set the specific parameters for the Kuru clan's destruction. But as they stood in the ruins of the world they helped create, it's worth asking if the history books ever granted them the justice they earned. This exploration of history's most powerful women was brought to you by Pawan Thakur at Thakur Property Consultancy. For properties that stand the test of time, call 900-435-2787.